Isaac Hare was hired with the Madera County Sheriff's Office in December of 2016. He worked just shy of a year and was released from probation in September 2017. In Madera County, probation is actually part of the hiring process. So you're not a full-time permanent employee until you pass that probationary period. And we use it as a period of time to gauge a candidate's suitability for full-time employment. So in this situation, we didn't provide him with a reason, and candidly, none of us remember exactly why he was released from probation. I think I share the reaction of law enforcement, probably statewide. You know, it's always such an unfortunate circumstance when events like these happen. We feel obviously really bad for the Fresno Police Department and the officer that had to deal with that situation. And we're a close-knit law enforcement family in the Central Valley, and so we stand with the Fresno Police Department and obviously support the trauma that officer probably felt. So when a candidate applies to become a law enforcement officer within the state, there are certain requirements they have to go through. Not all law enforcement agencies do the same. I can tell you within Madera County, we do a rather extensive process that includes not only the state requirements, we also do a polygraph. So there's a lie detector test, as well as the requirements of a psychological exam, a very detailed, thorough background examination, and a review of all of their records and their history. So in that process, it takes sometimes 6 months depending on where the person's lived. We'll have to go out to all those locations and talk to neighbors and talk to former business owners and former employers. It's quite extensive. And then once that portion is done, then they move on to the psychological and then on to the medical. In the case of Mr. Hare, like all employees, he went through the thorough background process, which included the polygraph examination. He went through a psychological, medical, and then a review of all of his files and the investigation that was completed during that process. Yeah, so the Madera Sheriff's Office attends the same academy as the Fresno Police Department. So we attend the Fresno Regional Police Academy down in Fresno. And that's a very extensive, long training process. And in Mr. Hare's case, upon completion of that academy, that was when he was hired with us. Generally speaking, during law enforcement training statewide, obviously firearms training and how to holster and unholster one's own firearm is part of the curriculum. There was a circumstance in which he was still in possession of an ID card, and that was around maybe 2 months after he was released from our office, where he had presented that ID card, I believe, for a discount at ammunition, or he'd presented it for some reason. And in passing, that store owner had mentioned it to one of our lieutenants. And we went out to his house and actually retrieved that false ID card from him. When someone's released from employment, whether it's, retired, terminated, or released from probation, any county-owned equipment is returned back to us. So we would retrieve, and we did retrieve, his badge, his ID card, any issued police equipment, etc. Badges, ID cards, radios, guns, equipment, magazines, any equipment that's owned by Madera County gets taken back.